Guys, welcome back to King's Cuts. Sorry it's been forever. Obviously, the business is going really well, and to the point where I'm bringing in a lot more students. I'm also training my sister as well. So obviously, with the whole video situation, it's been kind of nutty. But today we're gonna have a medium skin fade. I'm gonna maintain a good amount of the bulk on the sides. He's gonna have a shelf still, and I'm also gonna maintain a good amount on the top because we're just gonna do a nice comb over. Again, I can't apologize enough, but with business, working 7 days a week and having the shop open 7 days a week, and then also training, obviously I can't post as much as I want to. Hopefully in the future, I can give myself a day off or 2 days off so I can upload the videos more frequent, because obviously the more days off I have, if I shoot it in that day, I'll be able to upload it that night. So since we are doing a medium skin fade with a light drop and he is having a comb over, I'm going to start with the top first because he has so much bulk in his hair. So what I'm doing right now is I'm watering the hair so that way I can style it to where he's going to have it. It's going to be a little bit easier for me to cut it with it being styled already, because that lets me know what I have to do. So since it's going to be styled to the right and pushed back a little bit, I know how to layer it. I'm gonna leave a good amount of bulk on the left hand side, so that way the hairs on the left can transition into the middle, and then the middle can transition to the right, and then after that the right is going to transition into the shelf. So how I'm finding these parts and sections is basically I get my first initial guideline to where I'm cutting the bangs. So say I start out with 1 inch, I'll just be able to follow that all the way to the back calic, and pretty much I'm grabbing some of the hair from the front into the part that I'm going to be getting the next section to, and then I'm in between the little hairs. You can't really see it right now until you start cutting it yourself. Since the hair I'm grabbing from the places that I cut already, it's a little bit darker, and you might be able to see it right here. That's why I slow it down, where I see a little bit of the part that I just cut, and then also the section I'm cutting right there. If you just pay attention to those darker roots, you're able to see what your next guideline is. You don't have to worry too much about remembering where you had your finger placement. So I just got done cutting off the top. I'm pretty much just gonna section this off right now. So I'm just gonna have a nice section so that way I can start the fade. I'm gonna go in first with a 2, and then I'm just pretty much clearing this out, all this bulk, so I can get started for the fade. I'm doing a 2 here because I want to make sure I keep a good enough of that shelf, so that way when I clip over comb, it keeps it nice and dense. So for my main strategy when I try to keep it, dense, is I try to really exaggerate the flick out, and this is what you're going to be seeing here. I'm scooping it, but I'm also exaggerating it to the point where I even come off the head. Usually when I'm fading, I like to keep it on the head because that's a good guideline to not bump into it, because I can feel and I can measure how much pressure I'm putting on the clipper. But for this, since we are keeping so much shelf, I'm pretty much allowing myself to come off the head. And this is obviously going to help over time. The more you get used to it, it's just practice. And then after I take out all that bulk, I'm going to go in with the open. I always start open because you can always take more hair off. You can't put more hair back on. So I know in my previous videos, I said for medium skin fade is pretty much where you want to be in the middle of the arches, but I'm doing it a little bit below because I'm going to have a nice C cut for him. But when I start fading out, you're going to see that I'm starting to hit the middle of the head. Is basically what I'm doing is I'm going to do like a mid drop fade. So pretty much all that is going to be dipping down right below the occipital bone. So that way it's going to stay nice and dark. For this one, since his hair is so dense, I'm going to go a little bit above, but naturally if you're going to do a drop fade, you bring it a little bit below the occipital bone. This type of drop fade will vary dependent on the different client. So depending on how dense the hair is, you might want to go a little bit above or a little bit below the occipital bone. And just due to doing him before, I knew that I could do a little bit above the occipital bone because of how dark his hair is. So after saying occipital bone for, like 100 times, we're then going to go in for the closed, and we're going to have like a finger length, a little bit more than finger length of hair in between, so that we can use that for fading it when that's going to be done with lever play. Then after that, what I like to do is I like to debulk. So right now I'm just going to debulk, and then I'm going with the trimmers and then the balders. So with the balders, I'm pretty much going to have it where I go down first to pretty much stand the hair, and then once I start going up, that's what's going to have it so where it's balding. So basically it's going to give you a nice bald look. And then right here, if I ever want to touch up a little bit of the sideburn and right near the ear, I pull the ear down, and all I had to do is use the one part of the balder, so the top portion of it, that tends to be the weakest. The bottom portion tends to be the strongest, I guess you could say. And then obviously when you're doing the back, you can use both of them with a flicking out motion right below the line, so that way it doesn't leave a bald line. So right here, you're gonna see that I'm gonna be going down first. It's pretty much gonna be the easiest for you because you're gonna sand the hair after you just trimmed it with whatever trimmers that you would like. I use the Babyliss FX, I think. So after doing that, I like sanding it down. It's going to be easier, and it's also going to be less rough on your client's head. If you were to go straight up with it and try to go against the grain as much as possible, not only would it be a little bit damaging to the foil, but it also would take a lot longer. So it's always nice to sand the hair down before you start balding it out. So after you're done finishing up the balders, you're going to be going into lever play. And lever play is pretty much going to be going from open, middle, closed, 3/4, all in between, making sure that you get the fade line out. Pay attention to how I'm going to be using the clipper. So I'm going to have a slow motion right here of how, I'm having a slow motion of the clipper itself, not the actual fade. See how little I'm moving, and then when I decide to flick out, I'm also going to show you a side view here. Pay attention to my thumb and also my index finger of where the flicking is actually happening. I'm literally only on his head for like a split second, and then I'm flicking out. Basically what I'm doing is I'm flicking out to the point where I don't hit the top level of the open, so that way I won't have to restart my fade. Most barbers get caught up when they're finishing up a lever play, but somehow, some way, I don't know if they slip or they actually do a, by accident, whatever the case may be, they'll start raising their fade up. So make sure that when you do it, you flick out halfway. You're going to want to be using your index and thumb to really push out. Same thing here with the 1/16. Notice how much I'm flicking out and making sure that I'm not going past the above limit that I set. The specific guidelines that I have in place is meant there for a reason. You don't want to go past it, otherwise the fade is going to keep getting higher and higher and higher, and instead of a mid skin fade, it's going to be a high skin fade. The drop will fall apart, everything in the haircut will fall apart, and then you're going to have to reassess the ridge and then also reassess the top. So pay attention to how I'm using my thumb and index to really flick out, especially when it comes into tighter corners like right here with the 1/16. Just notice how I'm in there for a split second and then I'm gone as soon as I hit that halfway mark. Same thing with the one here. I'm pretty much setting up my guideline with the open, then closed, and then the same thing when I start lever playing. I'm gonna pick a spot that I'm gonna want to flick out, and then halfway up it, I'm gonna stop and flick out, exaggerating the flick out, so that way I'm not pushing any of my guidelines. You should also know that when you're doing the sides compared to the back, the sides fade a lot easier and faster than the back portion of the head. Especially with his hair, since how dense it is, the back portion is going to stay the darkest. So that's why it's also even better that we did it a little bit below the occipital bone. I know, I'm sorry for saying that again. I said it 100 times in this video, but because that we did a nice dip, it's going to stay even darker. On top of that, right here, after I did the 1.5, I'm pretty much going in with the 1 and corner notching every little spot that I don't want to take up with the 1 itself. Corner notching is using, I want to say, probably 25% of the blade, and then you're just literally flicking out and corner notching at the same time where you have it angled, so that way you create little streaks in the hair, but not like a nice flat cut. Usually when you do a flat cut, it's going to leave too much of indentation. So you got to pick your battles of when you want to corner notch and when you want to flick out. After all the fading process is done and I go back in with the 1.5 to corner notch a little bit, we're then going to be doing clipper over comb. You want to make sure that you're angled out a little bit out of the hair. So pretty much I'm scooping in, I feel the skull, and then I push out a little bit to where I don't feel the skull anymore, and I make my own fake guideline. So I'm pretty much making it so if you look at the hair from a side angle right there, it moves in a little bit out. And then after we do that, I'm going to go back in and freehand a little bit of the excess hair. And then after that, I'm going to be able to round off that part a little bit so it doesn't look too cartoonish. So after we're done this, we're going to be going in with the Babyliss, and I'm just pretty much going to get this nice C-cup right here. And then I'm going to start outlining his top, his front, his sides. And then he didn't request a beard trim, but on top of my haircut, I also like giving a little bit of a nice arch on the beard after I'm done doing the hairline on the top portion of the head. All right, guys, before we get to the razor part, I just want to say if you made it this far, thank you guys so much. I know I don't really upload as much as I should. Obviously, that's due to the business, and obviously that's due to me working 7 days a week. Again, I just hit my 1 year October 1st, so I do want to at least take a day or two off so that way I can continuously upload these YouTube videos. So I've now officially owned a business for my entire year. I still remember signing the lease when I was 24 on my birthday. So I really appreciate all the views and all the support that you guys have been giving me. If you guys want, please give it a thumbs up. Please give it a subscribe. And then if you guys want anything else, please give it a comment down below as we move on to the razor section of the haircut. So moving on to the haircut, I have the blade a little bit exposed, and all I'm doing is I'm hitting that line multiple times, but very gently. I don't want to do it just once and twice. I want to make sure that the blade stays nice and steady and to the point where I get a little bit of that dead skin to make it really sharp. The reason why I have it is more exposed than not is because I can really angle the blade and I can see exactly what I'm doing. When I'm hitting these C cups right there, I want to make sure that the very top of the blade is the only thing hitting it. The middle and back I have raised to the point where it's not. It almost looks like I'm tapping it, but if you had a different angle, you'd see that I'm fully on the 45-degree angle side of it. Moving on to his beard lineup, I want to get the excess hair of the cheek, and I want to make sure that the beard is lined up completely as possible. I want to make sure that I start from the top, middle, and then obviously lift the cheek up to give that nice curve. So after all the haircut is said and done, I lined up the beard. I put in the product of choice. For today, I'm going to be using a little bit of Suavecito clay. I think I did the Stronghold. I'm going to mix it in with my hand, and then I grab 2 combs and I mix in as much as I can with the combs as well. After that, I'm going to blow dry with the brush and really style it. After I blow dry with the brush, since the clay is so thick, I put a little bit of water to give it a little bit more of a natural look. See here, I want to make sure that I'm high heat and then low pressure. And then after that, the haircut is done. And then I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of the photo shoot that we did, and then obviously the picture that's used for the thumbnail. But here's the whole haircut, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below. Peace. Oh yeah, sorry for the rambling, by the way. I know I couldn't shut the hell up this video. Thanks. Bye.